to another video. It's back predicting the World Cup again, and obviously it's the semi-finals. This is where it gets really, really interesting because for the first time in World Cup history, it's the final four. The final four teams are actually the top four ranked by FIFA. So you've got France, who I believe are first, Spain, I think, are second, and I think it's England and Argentina as it stands. I think before the tournament it was the same, except Argentina were third and England were fourth. Might be the same now, but you've got it's going to be France versus Spain today as I record it, and England versus Argentina tomorrow. And I actually am in England tomorrow, so it's going to be interesting to see the atmosphere and if England actually do win, or how miserable everyone will be if they get knocked out. But I'm going to start off quickly just by discussing the other teams that they've beat to get here. So I'm not. When I get to the final, I'll talk about every team they beat, but I'm just going to talk about who they beat in the quarterfinals so far. Or not so far, but yeah. So France beat Morocco in the 2-0 in the quarterfinals to get here. Morocco were a bit dismal, to be honest. Like, they obviously played them in the semi-finals in 2022, but this time they were just quite weak in the quarters. They didn't really seem to have many big chances. I mean, I wasn't watching a lot of the game, but obviously I saw the two French goals, and every time I looked up, Morocco weren't really having any big chances, and they seemed to struggle quite a bit. I mean, they were missing their key talismanic player, what's his name, Ismail Saibari, through injury, which obviously was quite costly. But credit to Morocco, they were the furthest African side again to make it into the tournament, make it as far into the tournament as possible. So credit to Morocco, and thank you for being here in the 2026 World Cup. Next is Spain, who beat Belgium in the quarterfinals, knocking another European nation out. I got that, but actually, I can remember my predictions. So I said 2-1 to France, so I wasn't far off. I did say 2-1 to Spain, so I got that exactly right. With Belgium, they were a bit strange because like they actually had the chances, and obviously they scored a goal through De Ketelaere again, but I think it was De Ketelaere, but they were just very shaky at the back at times, and Spain had a lot of the attacking football, and it was unfortunate they had to take Thibaut Courtois off because that cost them because then Senna Lamens obviously came on, and he has actually been a very good goalkeeper for Man United, I'll give him credit, but then when he came on he obviously made that massive mistake where I think it was Pau Cubarsí took a power shot and Lamens couldn't hold it, and Mikel Merino was able to capitalise on it because Lamens also took a while to react as well, and you could just see like devastated faces of like the golden generation on the bench, like Courtois, Lukaku, De Bruyne, and Axel Witsel, who was on the pitch, and that's it because Belgium's golden generation is gone. And then they obviously have young prospects like De Ketelaere, like Doku, and yeah, but it's going to be very difficult for them if they're struggling so much. And then obviously they also suffered a big injury, which is that Amadou Onana has ruptured his ACL, and that's probably him out for like a year. So yeah, Belgium, unfortunately, they did put up a fight, but that is them out of the World Cup again, and that's probably the end of the golden generation. Next up was England, who beat Norway 2-1 after extra time in the quarterfinals. I was close to that prediction. I said 2-2 and England win on penalties, so I wasn't far off. But it was Jude Bellingham, who rescued them. He did have a good performance, and Jude Bellingham has been amazing this World Cup. Like the two goals he scored, the first one, obviously a nice run through the box, and then the second one was the tap in after the goalkeeper fired it straight in. But Norway put up a fight. It was I don't know who to say it, Sheldernuk or Schnelder. I'm not even gonna try and say it. He took a shot, and it was a cross, and it wasn't a shot, it was a cross, and it went over Pickford because he wasn't ready, and then off the post. But yeah, Norway did put up a fight. The problem was Haaland just could not get found, and I was quite disappointed by that because he's been one of the best strikers at this World Cup, and he just disappointed against England. He could not get the ball. But Norway have done fantastically, and even leaving the World Cup, they gave us some memories, such as they were escorted by F-35 planes. Their plane back was called Row Airlines, which I thought was pretty cool. And yeah, Norway have been an incredible sight to watch at this World Cup, and it's amazing that they made it to the quarterfinals for the first time. So congratulations to Norway, and thank you for the World Cup memories. And lastly, we come on to the reigning champions Argentina, who beat Switzerland 3-1 after extra time in the quarterfinals. I did feel for Switzerland because they obviously conceded early on in a 10th minute through Alexis McAllister, but then fought their way back in just after the hour mark through Dan Ndoye. But then straight away, Braille Embolo, I think seemed to be fouled, so they gave a yellow card to Paredes, and then they went on VAR went on to check this new rule called a mistaken identity, which is when if they've interpreted something wrong, they can check it. So they interpreted that it might have been a dive, and sure enough, Mbolo had dived, and since he was on a yellow card, he got sent off. So I felt for him because he was obviously inconsolable, but yeah, Switzerland did then unfortunately have a massive fight and massive uphill climb. They held on till extra time, but then Julian Alvarez scored an absolute worldie, and Lautaro Martinez finished the job. So Switzerland were out with a bit of a whimper, but they did fight quite hard, and yeah, respect to them. They made it to quarterfinals. I think the win that they got in the round of 32 was their first World Cup knockout win in 88 years. Yeah, they deserve a lot of credit. But now, and actually before I go on, I did get the prediction kind of close. I said 2-0 to Argentina, but yeah, it's not too bad. So now we'll move on to my predictions for the semi-final, and we're starting off obviously with France versus Spain. It's an incredibly hard game to predict because these two teams have got a bit of history. Obviously, recent history. It was the Euro 2024 semi-finals where Spain won 2-1, I think, through a couple of goals. Obviously, the most iconic one was Lamine Yamal, that worldie after he had been criticised and shamed by Adrien Rabiot. He shut him up quite quickly. But this time it seems a little bit different now. France are obviously ranked first in the world, and I think Spain second. And Lamine Yamal has been quite quiet this World Cup. I mean, he obviously got his goal against Saudi Arabia, but he hasn't really done much since then. He had a pretty good performance against Belgium, but he's not really got many goal contributions. And the whole Spain team's looked a bit dysfunctional at times. I mean, they've got a lot of good talent, with the likes of Pedri, Nico Williams, Lamine Yamal, and they're just struggling quite a bit creatively. But they've even got other players on the bench like David Raya and Mikel Merino who are coming off the bench and finishing the job. Well, not David Raya, sorry, that was a bad example, but Mikel Merino is a good example. He's come off the bench in the last two games and scored the two winners. But France's attack is lethal. Like, I have never seen an attack that good. Like Mbappe, Doué, Dembele, Elise, and then obviously Barcola and Cherki as well. And Mbappe's been fantastic this World Cup. 8 goals, fighting with Messi, and he's not far behind the record because there's a chance that if Argentina got knocked out by England and France went on to the final, Mbappe could take Messi's record, and Messi obviously would not be able to catch up. But realistically, Mbappe's going to take it anyway because I think by the next World Cup he'll be 30, so he's not going to retire by then. But as for this game, I don't know if Spain will finally click and figure it out, and I mean I don't know if Lamine Yamal will show up in this game. I mean he obviously did fantastically against them in the last one in Euro 2024, and he has been really good in big games. He might not get a goal, he might just get a couple of assists or get some creativity. But I've gone for a 2-2 draw, a brace for Mbappe, another 2 for Spain with Mikel Merino and Lamine Yamal. I will say he gets 1, but it does go to penalties, and I'm going to put France through because they've got that. Obviously, if it was to go to penalties, I can't see France being able to break down Spain. Spain's defence has been really, really good. This game is very similar to the Arsenal versus PSG Champions League final, where it was the best defence in the world versus the best attack in the world, on a club level. But like Spain's defence hasn't conceded a single goal until Belgium, obviously, but that was an unlucky one. So I can see France, struggling to break it down, Spain holding on and scraping a couple of goals. But then I do see that on penalties, Spain are knocked out again after they were knocked out to Morocco 3-0. They will get a couple of penalty goals, but France have been fantastic on penalties, and they've got Mbappe, Dembele, Elise. They've got the composure. Aside from the World Cup final 2022, they've been very good at penalties, very composed, and I do see France going through to the World Cup final for the third time in the last 3 editions, where they've obviously won one and lost one, and I think they'll have a very, very big chance to get their third World Cup title. Which leads on to, of course, who the opponents will be, and these teams have got serious history. England versus Argentina, the last team that isn't European left, obviously South American team, Argentina, where the 1980, obviously if the 1986 World Cup, I think it was the semi-finals. It might have been the quarter-finals though, with obviously the hand of God Diego Maradona and that absolutely incredible solo goal. But now these two teams will rewrite the history and see, maybe it'll change. Maybe England win, maybe Argentina maintain the record. It's obviously a very, very interesting game because Argentina, I will say, have played kind of similarly to England this tournament in the sense that England, the Euros in 2020, not similarly to England at this tournament, but England at Euro 2024, where they've scraped by results. They were not they played all right football, but they were leaving it till the last minute to do it. Like for example, England obviously like relied on like Bellingham and Harry Kane to get through, and they have been doing it this tournament. And it was like last minute goals, penalties, extra time that England needed in the Euros. This time Argentina have needed two extra time periods against Cape Verde and Switzerland, and then a really really late controversial comeback against Egypt. But as for England, they have been pretty good. I'd say like the Mexico performance was strong. Congo was the only disappointing result they've had in the knockouts, and in the group stages they were pretty decent apart from the scraping by Panama, struggling to Ghana and beating Croatia comfortably, and then Norway was obviously a great performance. Like Bellingham and Kane, I will say the one thing is that some of the other attackers need to step up a bit. Like Saka and Gordon have not provided anything really. Like they've been very good creatively, no doubt about that. But in terms of prolificness and goal scoring, they've obviously done nothing. And Rashford has only got one. That was against Croatia, and then the rest of them, the other 12 goals, have been provided by Kane and Bellingham. So I'm hoping that I do see England going through in this World Cup semi-final, sorry, courtesy of goals from Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham. It's just the most realistic prediction. I mean, they've obviously got most of the goals, so I might as well go for it. And a consolation for Lionel Messi, who will unfortunately have to go and play a third place playoff against Spain. But England will make it to a World Cup final. Whether they win it is a different story, but I have got England going through, which will probably satisfy a lot of my viewers. Which leads to this final and this World third place playoff. You will have my prediction is that the World Cup final will be between France and England, and the third place playoff will be between Spain and Argentina. Now, as for who I'm supporting for this at the World Cup semi-finals, I'm just going to go back to the first slide. As for who I'm supporting, I don't really know, but I think my pick would probably be Spain, mainly because of I predicted them to win it at the start of the tournament, because I mean, plus I holidayed there in the summer, so I might as well say that. But Spain have obviously I did predict them, and I think they have been decent and definitely have a chance. Plus they've only got one World Cup title, as do England, but I'd love to see one of those two teams get their second World Cup title. France would obviously get their third, and Argentina would get their fourth. But that's my predictions. I'll go back to that slide that I had before. Yep, my prediction is that the World Cup final will be between France v England. You'll have Maignan versus Pickford, Kane versus Mbappe, Bellingham versus Elise. You'll have Rice versus Rabiot. You'll have Upamecano versus Guehi. You'll have Reece James versus Koundé, Luca Digne versus O'Reilly or Jed Spence or whoever. And the third place playoff will unfortunately be between Spain and Argentina, which is this is actually one thing that I will say about this World Cup. This is the first time in quite a while where even the third place playoff game can be quite highly anticipated. I mean, in fact, obviously it's been eight. I'd say the one in 2022 was not as exciting. Croatia versus Morocco. It was nice for both those teams, but for the world it wasn't like a big game. And then obviously 2018 was, to be fair, maybe a bit more exciting with Belgium and England. But this time Spain v Argentina is a pretty good game. Yamal versus Messi, the past of Barcelona versus the future of Barcelona. And that World Cup final is fantastic. I mean, they obviously have met each other. France met and England met each other in the quarterfinals, and France obviously came out on top. But England could rewrite it. They could get revenge. I hate this. I don't hate to say it, but this genuinely could be coming home, because this England squad is very strong. They just need to hold their nerve a bit, and there's players in there that have got the experience, and I can definitely see that there's a chance it comes home. But France's team is strong and they will struggle. But yep, those are my predictions for the World Cup final. And for the World Cup semi-finals, I will have France v England in the final and Spain v Argentina in the semi-final. Let me know what your predictions are in the comments. Let me know if you're from any of those countries or how your country did in the World Cup. As for any other content coming out, I will be off, as I said, I'll be in England for a couple of days this week. One thing that will be happening is I will be going to Myrtle Avenue to plane spot at London Heathrow Airport at some point in this week, which is incredible. I mean, I'm going to get to see hopefully get to see an A380 for the first time, and that's going to be absolutely insane. And then when I'm back, I'll try and get a quick World Cup final prediction video done, and I will get what's it called? I might do a video maybe reacting to my World Cup predictions. It might more be like I'll write every team down and see how far they made it compared to what I predicted, and I'll probably do a video of like a summary of what happened in this World Cup and like the big stories and stuff such as like Cape Verde, and I'll do my team of the tournament. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and as I get said, let me know what your comment predictions are for the World Cup semi-finals in the comments, and who you think will make it to the final, and who you think will win the final. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.